Good evening, welcome to the Buck Stops here. I'm Vishnu Shom. On the program tonight, the Agusta Westland scam is back in the news. Air Marshal SP Tyagi becomes the first Armed Forces chief to be arrested by the CBI on charges of corruption. He'll be produced before a judge tomorrow. He'll be subjected to custodial interrogation by the CBI. Tonight, Air Marshal Tyagi may have been arrested, but where is the smoking gun? Who were the politicians who were the ultimate recipients of bribe money from Agusta Westland? Is there anything to suggest that senior Congress politicians were involved, or do these still remain entirely in the realm of speculation and allegations? My colleague Sunetra Chaudhary joins us for more on this. Sunetra, this was a case that in a sense was languishing for a while now. There is now this very high-profile arrest that has taken place. Why is the CBI doing this? Have they unearthed something new?
Well, it seems like it, because for the first time we have confirmation from them, in fact a written one which I've seen as well, where they say that the two people, they don't name Shashi Tyagi in this, they say that his cousin Sanjeev Tyagi and also the lawyer Gautam Khaitan are in receipt. They received the bribes, so it's the first time that they are talking about money being received here in India. They received the bribes and influenced the public official, which is of course the former Air Chief SP Tyagi. So this is the first kind of corroboration of that. Till now, all that the CBI had done was follow what the Italian investigators had said. Italian investigators had said that SP Tyagi was air chief and he changed the specifications. He was bribed into doing so. He changed it from 6,000 meters, which was the requirement for a VVIP to fly to levels places like Siachen and others. He had changed it to 4,500, which meant that they couldn't fly to places like Siachen, and this was a VVIP chopper. This allowed Agusta Westland to become a contender and finally get this entire tender. So that's what the CBI accuses it of. They say that they need these two, all three of them, for custodial interrogation so that they are able to confront them, get into more details of how this bribe was taken. But the CBI really needs to prove this, Vishnu, because if they don't, the PC Act, which is the Prevention of Corruption Act, is all about proving the money trail. So do they really have it?
Right. So, and that in fact was my next question. The bottom line over here, as far as Air Marshal Tyagi is concerned, is whether there is evidence of him having physically received money, whether it was a direct cash transfer, whether it was money put into some sort of suspicious account. Till date, that is something the CBI would have investigated, because they've already interrogated him several times. Now it's custodial interrogation. But till date, they have not found that he has received those funds. Again, has that potentially changed?
No, they haven't. No, they haven't. In fact, well, they're not sharing that at all, because if they had, they would give us details of what that's happened. But a couple of things have changed.
Sure.
One, the team changed. Earlier this year, they made somebody who's been in the headlines now, Rakesh Asthana, they formed a special investigative team led by him to look into this, and he has been very confident that they're moving very firmly ahead. They still say that they have nothing on the political people, the political affiliations, and they still don't have. They know that the bribe amount is 12% of 3,700 crores,
yep.
But they still don't have who got what and whether exactly because politically it's very sensitive, if any politicians are involved, because there are references in the diary of the middlemen to the family and to people like AP. They still don't have who exactly got what, but they are saying the movement in this case is that they are saying Sanjeev Tyagi, that's the former Air Chief's cousin, and Gautam Khaitan, they received bribes.
All right, Sunetra, thanks very much for being with us. I'm just going to introduce our panel. Sudhanshu Mittal of the BJP with us tonight, Madhu Gaudyashki of the Congress, Vaiju Naravane, the senior journalist who's tracked this case very, very closely in Europe with us as well, and Lieutenant General Raj Kadyan, the Deputy Chief, the former Deputy Chief of Army Staff with me in the studio. I'd like to thank all of you very much for joining us. Mr. Mittal, let me come to you first. Do you believe, sir, based on what you've seen, that it sort of ends with the Air Chief, SP Tyagi, who's now been arrested and will be interrogated, or do you believe that he is not the smoking gun, as it were?
Mr. Som, this is a case which is beyond doubt a case of corruption in defense purchase.
Yep.
I'm very happy about the arrest for one simple reason, that today a message has gone to all the high and mighty that come what may, the law will catch up. Law does not look at how high or mighty you're going to be.
And by
Wrongdoing
high and mighty,
corruption
who are you
is not
referring
going
to?
be.
Are you referring to
saying
SP
this is
Tyagi or are you referring to the to Congress leaders?
I am referring to first the person who has been arrested.
Yes.
Our air chief for the first time in this country has been arrested for corruption. Now it's a monumental leap in the direction of fighting corruption. But at the same time, because it is well known to everybody that the Congress leadership was also involved in this unsavory deal. Subsequent to all the investigation, if there is evidence to suggest that they have been involved, they'll also be in the net. So the fundamental message that wrongdoing will not go unpunished is what is the message which has emanated from
Vishnu, I
this.
strongly object Mr. Mittal's statement.
Can I finish? I think let's have a decent debate.
Madhu Gaud, sir, I'll come to you
Decency
next.
demands
We've
that
got
we do
time.
not intervene.
Don't draw the
When you will talk, I will not
conclusions, don't
intervene,
make
sir.
false allegations.
Madhu
Don't
Gaud,
make
sir, I'll
false
come to you
God,
next.
allegations,
Mr. God.
Mittal.
Madhu Gaud, sir, I'll
Don't
come to you
make
next.
false allegations, Mr. Mittal.
Right,
So-
I'll give you that opportunity to
I am
defend your
entitled
position.
to my opinion, you are entitled to yours.
Mr. Mittal, finish your point and I'll
You
I'll
cannot
continue.
make false allegations.
Mr. Som, you can understand the frustration of my colleague here, who at the very
have no
mention of this
frustration.
case is so unnerved because the skeletons are bound to
You
come out.
cannot
Okay.
mention
People who have done wrong are
cannot
supposed to
mention
be
the-
buried, and
without
that is what the
any
message
iota of
is.
evidence.
Okay,
about this
Mr. Mittal,
action.
1 minute. He wants to defend himself and the Congress over here. Go ahead, sir. What is the point you're mentioning? Madhu Gaud, sir.
So, my straight point to Mr. Mittal, he cannot draw the Congress leadership here without any iota of evidence. Where this deal has started, when it was started, in 1999 it started. It is then the Prime Minister, the previous BJP Prime Minister, Mr. Vajpayee's office. Have they inquired in the past 30 months why it was reduced from 6,000 meters to 3,500 meters? It is then Principal Secretary who reduced the height of the cabin. What
Yeah,
was
but the
Mr.
deal was
Modi
signed when the
Sarkar
Congress
is
was
doing
in
last
power.
30 months not doing in it?
And when
So
SP
without
Tyagi was
any
the chief.
evidence and iota of evidence, he cannot make allegations
Madhu Gaud,
against
sir,
any party, any political leadership here.
I think it's important, and you make an important point, that these are allegations. We will stick to that word, and I'm sure Mr. Mittal would agree that these are allegations at this stage. But I just want to point out, you are saying that there is no linkage to anybody in the Congress. There are a series of documents which were produced in the Italian court, and let's just go through what some of those actually have to say. Let me quote, "Dear
Okay.
Peter, since Mrs. Gandhi is the driving force behind VIP helicopters, VIPs will no longer fly the Mi-8. That's the older helicopter. This is a letter which has been written by Christian Michel, who's been established as one of the middlemen in this particular deal. Then there is another mention which was in the Italian court. Call Monti or Ambassador Terracciano on my behalf to ask him to call Prime Minister Singh. Who wrote this letter? It was a letter by Giuseppe Orsi, the former CEO of Agusta Westland, which was written from his prison, a man who has been charged with corruption and I believe jailed as well. And the implication of this letter was clear. A jailed CEO believed that he had enough clout to get through to the Prime Minister of India. So when you say that there is no mention of Congress leaders or people in the previous administration, that's not correct. These are court-produced documents, sir.
Okay. May I answer?
Please,
May I
please,
answer?
please.
Not only as a Congress spokesperson, let me answer as a lawyer also. It is, when it comes to the notice of then the UPA government, then the Defense Minister, Mr. A. Antony, not only initiated a CBI inquiry, cancelled the contract in 2014. In the last 2014, May, the Modi Sarkar has come. It is 30 months now. The so-called letter plus all the confidential documents at the disposal of Mr. Modi Sarkar. Past 30 months, what is Mr. Modi Sarkar is doing in it? Now there are allegations of nepotism by appointing an interim CBI director, subverting the entire constitutional mechanism, not getting
No,
in
but
a full
sir,
time,
let's link it
not
directly
even
to this
having in a
particular
low call
case.
here, the so-called corruption. Stick to it. I'll come to the point which you raised, Mr. Vishnu. Here, it is at government disposal, all the evidence and files. Who is stopping it?
No, but sir, nobody is
Why
stopping
it took
them.
30 months even to arrest Mr.
But sir, it's
Mr.
not the
Tyagi
government
here?
that is arresting, it is the
What
CBI
is,
that is
what is
arresting.
stopped? It is the Congress government not only cancelled the deal and recovered the money and kept the 3 choppers. What is stopping Mr. Modi for all these months to take any action if anyone involved?
Sir, it's not Mr. It's not,
It is
it's not
nothing
the
but
Modi
it's a
government
diversion
that has to
tactics
take
by Mr.
action,
Modi
it's the
here.
CBI. Are you saying that the CBI is
What
acting
is
on the
CBI in the
behest?
stools?
All right.
CBI is
The
become a
is acting
stools
on the
under the
behest
Modi
of the
Sarkar.
government. Okay.
They're not even having a full-time
Mr.
director.
Mittal, reply to that specific
So
point.
can I answer?
You are influencing the CBI to go after the Congress. That's the allegation which has been made.
They are.
So when it comes to Congress's conduct, I am reminded of that saying, "Mera khoon khoon, tumhara khoon pani." When it is their government, then they say, no, we don't interfere. CBI is free. We do not interfere. And suddenly,
Oh, yeah.
when they're in the opposition and
How
they're
come?
being hot, allow me, sir, have
You
decency. What is
surpassed
going
8
on with you,
senior
Mr.
officers.
Gowda?
You got in a...
Mr. Madhu, have decency.
Gujarat cadre
Hey,
officer.
sir.
Yeah,
How did
you-
he
Madhu,
become
when you
an
talked,
officer?
I
He
never
didn't
spoke.
interrupt you. And I
So-
will give you plenty of time. I will be
Okay,
fair,
okay.
sir, to
Okay,
everybody.
Mr. Let him answer. I'll
Yes,
reply.
thank you, sir.
Look
Mr.
at,
Mittal,
look
go
at his
ahead.
nervousness. Look at the conduct and his nervousness. This is itself an admission of the guilt.
No,
Because
sir,
you
I'm
will
not sure.
permit
I'm not
anybody
sure
else to
that
speak.
can be an admission
Sir,
of
allow me
guilt.
to finish. Allow me to finish. Now, so these are all documents in the public domain.
Yes.
Which are hotly being pursued by the CBI. And you just heard Mr. Gowda first saying, not a shred of evidence. If these evidences are not a shred of evidence, I have nothing to say. And they should not be worried. Instead of now looking at the investigation of CBI, what are they saying? There is nepotism. Sir, CBI is a free institution now which operates under the CVC and the overall supervision of very competent people. Government has no direct role when it comes to the Prevention of Corruption Act. And in Prevention of Corruption Act, money trail is also not critical. It is the conduct of the people who are government servants which is critical, and the political establishment is a part of it. The entire conduct of the UPA government during its tenure, you are saying you deal because all deals which happened during your regime had money taken in that. That's why you were compelled.
Okay,
When the
Madhu Gaud,
evidence came
sir,
out.
Madhu Gaud, sir,
So there is
respond
an
before I
there
go
is an
across to my
admission
other
of wrongdoing.
panelists. Madhu Gaud, sir, respond before I go across to my other panelists. Yes.
The first. It is the contract started by then the NDA government. It is then Prime Minister Mr. Vajpayee's office taken the decision whether to reduce the meters or the height of the cabin.
Yes.
All UPA Sarkar did it. They continued the agreement entered by the NDA. Instead of 8 choppers, brought it to 12. It is the Congress government not only cancelled the contract, initiated CBI inquiry, initiated an FIR, and got the money, filed a case in abroad and got the money back and blacklisted. What you have done? Vishnu, my straight question to Mr. Sudhanshu. What you have done? You have lifted the blacklisted by then the UPA government. The same company you have been, now you engaging in the business.
No, they are not,
Second
sir.
point.
They are
He's
not, sir.
talking about the CBI. My straight question here. CBI. Why did current additional temporary in charge given to an additional director, additional IPS officer from Gujarat, surpassing 8 senior officers?
Okay, so
Whereas
all right, you are bringing in
CBI
you are-
under one quick point, under CBI under NDA, Mr. Modi Sarkar doesn't decided to not to appeal in Amit Shah's case, but appeals in Advani's case.
Okay, all
They
right. You are
conveniently
talking.
doing
All right,
this.
you are saying
Why
the
did
CBI
Mr.
is
Modi has
entirely
not
biased in
appointed
going
Lokpal?
after everybody in this
Why
case.
didn't
That's
he
a separate
appointed
point.
Lokpal, which
I want to
supposed
go
be
across
curb
at
the
this stage.
corruption in the country. What is he
let's-
doing last 2.5 years?
Sir, let's
Lokpal
stick to
bill
this
has been
particular
amended a year
case.
ago.
You
Why
need
is
to
he not
establish
appointed
that the
Lokpal?
stand-in director of the CBI is corrupt and is somebody going against the Congress, because your allegation is very strong. But Mr. Yashki, please tell us how that is the case. How is the stand-in CBI
So, the case
director
here-
who you object to his position? I accept that. I understand your point. How is it linked to Agusta Westland?
no,
How is he targeting the Congress party?
Listen, we will not. I never even said that. I never even said
But
that.
then why are
neither
you
we
raising
worried
that
about
point?
That if he targeting it. What I'm saying? Why a CBI director is not appointed?
No, but
Why
what does
even
that have
Army
to
chief
do with
has not
Augusta
taken
Westland,
decision?
sir? Are you
Why the
you're making
Lokpal?
what is
Why
the
the
connection?
Lokpal is not appointed?
Make the connection,
this is,
sir.
This is today This is nothing but an attempt of failure of demonetization decision. taken
Failure
by
of
Mr.
demonetization.
Modi. Is utterly
So,
failure.
sir, you're linking
To
demonetization
divert the
to
whole
Agusta
country's
Westland.
attention.
Okay.
Divert the whole country's attention is trying to bring it as if
divert
nothing is
the
new in
country's
this case.
attention. Okay, I want to go
As
across
if
to
nothing
Vaiju
to do in
Naravane.
this case.
I want to go
If
across
he's-
to
if
Vaiju
he's
at this
serious
case.
of fighting
Vaiju
corruption,
perhaps
why is he
knows
not
about
appointed
what
Lokpal
exists in
until
the
now?
Italian court documents better than anybody else. And Vaiju, when we were pouring
the
through these
letter.
documents earlier on in the year, I think it's also important to point out that it's not just the Congress leadership that has been named, there are others as well. For example, 6 million euros were meant to go as bribes to the Indian Air Force, including the Air Force Chief, the Deputy Chief, the Director General of Maintenance and others. 8.4 million euros was meant to go to the Defence Secretary, the Joint Secretary Air, the Director General Acquisitions, and between 15 and 16 million euros was for politicians. The initials AP, possibly referring to somebody close to Sonia Gandhi, a senior political leader, while FAM likely refers to the family of the former Air Force Chief SP Tyagi, who's an accused in the case. So the bottom line here is it's not just politicians, it's the entire system which was potentially corrupt. Was that also your reading of the Italian documents?
Yes, my reading
What is
was
stopping the
exactly
government?
the same of the Italian documents, and my assessment of this entire case rests also on the very long conversations and personal conversations I have had with the Italian prosecutor general Eugenio Fusco, who became a sort of person that I frequented quite often simply because I happen to be the only Christian journalist who speaks Italian, and I would go from Paris to Busto Arsizio every week after week, to cover this case. Now, there are 10,000 documents that have been given over to the CBI. A lot of them are in English, a lot of them are in Italian. And I would like to know whether the CBI and the Indian Defense Ministry, who have possession of these documents, have had them all translated. I would like to know how much time it has taken them to translate these documents. There is a great lack of transparency on the manner in which the CBI has also conducted its inquiry. I understand that this is an inquiry for corruption and they cannot be upfront about it. And yet, we still do not know if it's basing itself only on the judgment that was handed down and the evidence that was produced in court, but there is a great deal more.
Yeah.
And all those documents, all those 10,000 documents, which fill up an entire supermarket trolley, they have not all been presented in court. Now, the prosecutor told me another thing. He said, your government is looking for a smoking gun. There is a smoking gun in those documents. They only have to look for it. It appears that they haven't really looked for
Or
it.
perhaps they have, Vaiju, or perhaps they have, which is why these arrests are now taking place.
So, yeah, if what Mr. Fusco has told me is correct, then maybe they haven't found those documents.
Yep.
The ones he was referring
Vaiju, thank you so much for raising this point, and I think we need to bring in Vaiju's credentials in this particular story. There is no other journalist who has actually poured through those Italian documents in the manner that Vaiju has. She's been a diplomatic affairs editor based in Europe for years and years. She speaks fluent Italian, has spoken to the prosecutor any number of times, and that point that she mentions is important. There is a smoking gun, and it lies in volumes and somewhere inside volumes and volumes of documents. Has the CBI translated all of those documents? Have they got the right place to look for? Do they know where it is? So these are questions which, and Vaiju will certainly ask the CBI those questions and see if they're willing to answer. I want to go across to you, General. The larger picture here, I mean, there's more than one picture. One is of corruption, and the other one is of the armed forces. And here you have a former chief of the Indian Air Force accused of corruption. He's going to go through judicial, a custodial interrogation. It's a very sad day for an institution that has always tried to pride itself on not being corrupt.
Vishnu, I share your views. It's a very sad development. Although at the moment there are only accusations, as you said, there are only allegations. Let us hope that Air Chief Marshal Tyagi ultimately comes out innocent. I will be very happy. But as things stand today, the man has been accused. He has been taken into custody, the first service chief to have been so subjected after we became independent. A service chief is different from others. He carries the trust of the entire nation. The entire force, I am including all three services, is willingly prepared to die for the orders given by the chief. He is the standard setter. He is the flag bearer. If an allegation of this nature has come against him, it is a very, very sad development for the three services. There have been corruption cases earlier, but not at the level of the chief. I also feel that the kind of decisions that has been taken for which he couldn't have taken it alone. So, it is the system that is involved. In fact, earlier there were news that this suggestion to reduce the height was made by Brijesh Mishra,
Yes.
who was at that time the NSA,
Yes.
because there was a single vendor.
Yes.
That may have been his intention, not that anybody
Sure.
making any allegation. So, I do not think the service chief alone could have taken that decision. Of course, there are other allegations that last year in September, the enforcement directorate has attached assets of Air Chief Marshal Tyagi worth 7 crore, assuming that information to be true. I do not think a service chief at the time when Tyagi and we joined the service, he may have been just 3 years behind, could earn so much which even could touch a crore. So, if this is true, unless he has parental assets, which is possible, some of us do have, but let us hope ultimately the truth will come out. If he is found guilty, this couldn't be a sadder development for the defense services. We would be ending up breaking the faith and the trust of the entire country that they have.
Yeah.
Services held in a very high regard by the country,
Yeah.
that will get damaged.
Mr. Mittal, you know, there is a point that that the Congress party was raising, Madhu Gaud sir was raising, and I think you need to answer it. This became a single vendor situation when the BJP was in power. It was the late Brijesh Mishra who actually said that, look, we need to get out of this, and therefore the process of, and there were complaints by the SPG as well, and therefore the process of getting Agusta Westland back into the fray actually started when the BJP was in power. So while you may point fingers at the Congress, isn't it also true that the BJP at some level was part of the decision-making process, which I am sure you will agree went completely wrong?
Vishnu, we are talking about a situation where because of a single supplier, the specs were changed to make it broad-based and more competitive. When you make it competitive, you open it for everybody, and if it was a single vendor tender, then it would have been subjected to a lot of criticism.
But Mr. Mittal, this is where I think, sir, your facts might be wrong, sir. It was indeed a single vendor situation, which is why there was a sense that it needed to be multi-vendor. It was a single vendor situation in favor not of the Agusta helicopter, but of the other helicopter, which ultimately came back into this competition, was rejected and Agusta won. So Agusta was allowed to come back into contention as a result of a decision taken by the NDA and subsequently backed up by the UPA.
So, Vishnu, that is exactly what I am explaining. That there was a single vendor and that was not Agusta. Now, if a tender would have been given to a single vendor, then it would have been subjected to a lot of criticism that there could be wrongdoing. So, to make it an internationally competitive situation, this was done. But neither the tender was finalized. There were no field trials in India. You know, if you've gone through the entire details, how the Congress government had finalized this tender was so brazen and so blatant. And all the documents which are there in the public domain, naming all the Mrs. Gandhis and everybody, it's all in the public domain. None of the documents which have ever been produced even raises a remote finger at anybody from the NDA.
Yes, sir, Mr. Madhu Gaud, sir, I'll come to you
next. Lastly, a process which had made it more competitive cannot be held against the NDA. It could have been held against NDA because of their decision, only a single
but it became competitive. It became competitive because the helicopter, which was the only remaining helicopter, was not allowed to go through. The government felt you needed more, and the other helicopter that came into the fray, which was rejected earlier on, ended up being Agusta Westland that won this competition.
So why
but
did,
I take your point that you
buy
needed.
this?
I take your point
Why
that
did the
it
Congress
needed to be
BJP
more
never,
than one.
NDA government never asked for this helicopter.
And you didn't sign the deal. Fair enough.
It's the government which, the UPA government which bought this helicopter.
Okay,
and
okay,
that
fair
too
enough.
for consideration which is well known.
Okay, Madhu Gaut, go ahead, sir.
Vishnu, I would like to read my friend Mr. Mittal to go through the facts, what you rightly mentioned. The initial order placed by then the NDA government. If you have a time, then I can list out the dates wise when,
no,
how
but quickly,
it was
sir,
signed
we're out
and
of time.
changed the rules here. Quickly, the quick point here, even the contract which is mentioning, it is because of the UPA, the Contractual Agreement Article 23-24 changes to Undue Influence and Integrity Pact, which is included in the contract. Because of that only, when the news of bribery came up, it is UPA, Mr. Anthony, initiated CBI inquiry and cancelled the contract. Not only that, because of this integrity clause, we recovered the money. We recovered the money from the Agusta.
So what is it?
What you have done? My simple and straight question to Mr. Mittal and the UPA NDA Sarkar, what you have done in the past 30 months? You have at a disposal of every confidential document at your place.
Sir,
and Mr. Modi's record is who fought for 11 years not appointing Lokayukta. Mr. Modi's record in fighting corruption is zero. He is not even appointed Lokpal in the past 2.5 months.
Okay, Mr. Mittal, you have a right to respond to that in one sentence. I'm out of time. I'm completely out of time, Mr. Mittal.
Corruption of Mr. Modi is nothing but a Jumla promise.
But his record of corruption is also zero, unlike the UPA, which has only record of corruption, and corruption.
All right, gentlemen, we are in familiar territory now of allegations and counter allegations. We have to leave this over here, bring down everybody's sound, let there be peace. And now that there is a little bit of peace, let us move on. We are completely out of time on this program, but this is something we're going to be tracking very closely. The former Air Force Chief, Air Marshal SP Tyagi, will be interrogated, custodial interrogation by the CBI after being produced in front of a competent judge. It's a sad day for the institution of the armed forces, a former chief being accused of corruption and being arrested by the Central Bureau of Investigation.